Obsessive compulsive and related disorders. Table 5.5 on page 187 has a listing: obsessive compulsive disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, hoarding disorder, trichotillomania, excoriation. There is a video that I'll have you watch that discusses obsessive compulsive disorder, but the basics to understand, just understanding that obsessions are the thoughts that are repetitive and are anxious, and then the compulsions are the behaviors, the motions, the actions that you feel you must do that are repetitive and ritualistic. The more common ones are cleaning things and checking things. At the bottom of page 188, there's examples there. Thinking that one's hands remain dirty despite repeated washing, so then you turn around and wash again, then you touch the doorknob, then your hands are dirty again, then you have to wash them again, then you try to leave the house, then you have to wash them again, and so on and so forth until you haven't gotten anything accomplished. So that was the thought that led to the compulsion, the rechecking, and the rewashing, and things like that. So watch that video for a little more information. A few other related semi-related disorders that I did look on YouTube for a lot of videos, and there are lots of videos, but frankly, there's something wrong with every one of them. They're just kind of too much personal opinion, and I don't want to go too far down that road. So look them up if you want. I mean, you can certainly find all kinds of different viewpoints on everything, as you well know, but certainly judge it by fact before you just take in what's said. Body dysmorphic disorder, preoccupation with an appearance defect, real or imagined. I mean, maybe there is something, but more often than not, there isn't something wrong with your nose or your cheek or your whatever. The belief that others will be judging you, and the belief or the obsession that you need to keep checking to see what is going on. On page 194, I'll have you read that little box, a closer look. Don't they see what I see? Visual processing of faces in people with body dysmorphic disorder. It's interesting. It gives some extra insight. These are examples that I think are, this one right here is not really a real picture, and I don't even know if you can see my arrow. I'm sure you can, but anyway, this guy out with all these muscles, I don't really believe that's real, but it's the idea of what a man might look into the mirror and think, if I don't look like I have muscles, I need to get another one, I need to get another one. There's never enough. This idea to keep going is never enough. I'm not saying that, any of these famous people, Joan Rivers, or I don't even know this person's name, but Joan Rivers, I'm not saying she has body dysmorphic disorder, but she certainly had tons of plastic surgeries to alter her looks. Maybe it was because there just was always something that wasn't quite right. This woman is kind of semi-famous for multiple surgeries to look like her cats. There's got to be something going on there. These two bottom pictures nicely represent this idea of when women look in mirrors, they often think they're bigger than they are, so their view of that is skewed. Men often look and think they're not as big as they should be, as the ideal cultural norm that they have in their head. So it's kind of a flip for the two. Hoarding disorder, the need to accumulate and keep reasonably useless things. I suppose we could debate that a little, but generally it's useless things. This causes distress to keep it. It causes distress to discard it. So there's distress and anxiety caused overall. The anxiety of not feeling like you can let it go. What if you need this? What it has this attachment to you? It usually becomes a safety hazard. It can be very neatly organized. It can be mess. It can be things. It can be trash. There is a subset of hoarding that's animal hoarding. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's tons of rabbits. In the news a couple years back, there was a man who was hoarding pythons, and he had like 200 in his house at one time, and several had died. And they were just sort of living on top of the dead ones, and he just, for whatever reason, could not part with any. That has lots of television shows that glamorize it and glorify it, so it is in the news these days. Trichotillomania, it's compulsive hair pulling that equals hair loss. Excoriation, compulsive skin picking that leads to lesions and sores. So these are the other two, a little less common. I think trichotillomania, is in the public eye, but both of these are sort of similar to the phenomenon of cutting. You're anxious and you don't have control over anything else in your life potentially. So what do you have control over? You have control over a little bit of cutting, or a little bit of skin picking, or a little bit of hair pulling. You have control over how much pain you inflict. Are you cutting really lightly? Did you just pull one hair? Are you just pulling 10, 20, one right after the other? Are you picking it till it bleeds, or are you just picking it just to that point? What are you controlling? Potentially, I'm not saying this is said anywhere, but potentially nail biting up to, where it's painful or they bleed is related to some of this. I would suggest that all of these are just different manifestations of the same sort of anxiety that leads you to at least try to focus on something else so that you don't have to think about the other stressor, the bigger stressor, whatever that is, if that's a divorce or the loss of a loved one or some such. So these give you just a general idea of these other categories.